desert wind screamed across the high plateau, carrying with it the coppery scent of dust, dried sage, and something darker, the faint, unmistakable trace of blood. The sun hung low over the jagged peaks, a merciless ball of fire that bleached the land into shades of ochre and gold, making every shadow long and crooked, like the fingers of something dead reaching out from the ground. Heat shimmered over the rocky plain, but in the stillness, the only true movement came from the restless shuffle of horses and the tightening grip of men's hands on their weapons. 30 of them stood in a half-circle, their faces burned by the sun, their eyes narrowed with the kind of cruelty that only comes from living without fear of the law. Dusty coats clung to their sweat-slicked backs, wide-brimmed hats pulled low against the glare. Each one had the easy stance of a man who'd taken a life before, and would again. Before the sun dipped beneath the mountains, Ethan Cole sat alone in the saddle, framed against that unforgiving light, his presence a lone barrier between those 30 men and what they had come for. His coat, once a rich brown, was torn at the shoulder and frayed at the hem, his shirt plastered to his back with sweat and grit. The brim of his hat threw a shadow over his face, hiding the storm brewing in his eyes, but his right hand was steady, curled around the grip of his Colt for 5*50 feet behind him. Near a jagged cluster of sandstone boulders, two small figures clung to each other, twin Apache children, no more than 9 years old. Their dark hair was tangled with dust, their faces pale under the dirt, eyes wide and fixed on the wall of armed men before them. They didn't speak, they didn't cry, but their knuckles were white where they gripped each other's hands, as if any distance between them would shatter whatever courage they still had left. Hours earlier, their mother had found Ethan by the riverbed, where he'd been watering his horse. She had come like a ghost from the scrub, lean, fierce-eyed, her breath ragged from running. "They are coming," she had told him, her voice shaking but urgent. She'd pushed the children toward him, her hands lingering just long enough to brush their hair back from their faces. "I will find you. Keep them safe." Then she was gone, swallowed by the desert, leaving Ethan with no explanation except the sound of riders in the distance, and the cold understanding that these children were hunted. Now, facing the 30 men arrayed before him, he understood exactly who was doing the hunting. The leader stepped forward, a tall man with a scar running from his cheekbone down into the collar of his shirt, his skin weathered like tanned leather. His grin was cold, humorless, the kind of smile a man wore when he knew he held all the cards. "You got something that belongs to us, Cole," he called out, his voice carrying in the heavy, dry air. "Hand over the kids, and maybe we let you ride out of here alive." Ethan's jaw tightened. The sun caught the line of his cheek, the stubble on his chin, the thin sheen of sweat at his temple. "They don't belong to you," he said, his voice flat and hard enough to chip stone. "And I'm not handing them to the likes of you." A ripple of laughter rolled through the outlaws, low, mocking, mean. One man spat into the dust. Another, with a beard that reached his chest, cracked his knuckles and muttered something about Apache brats and easy gold. The words twisted in Ethan's gut. He knew the truth. The children had witnessed a killing, and these men needed them silenced. They weren't just outlaws. They were butchers, with lawmen in their pockets and blood on their hands. He shifted in the saddle. Not much, just enough to keep his body square between the men and the children. His eyes moved like the barrel of a rifle, sweeping the circle, marking the twitch of a hand here, the shift of weight there, every man looking for an opening. The air felt heavy, the kind of stillness that comes just before the crack of lightning. Somewhere behind them, high above in the sky, a hawk screamed, the sound sharp and lonely. The wind gusted once, hard, catching the edge of Ethan's coat, so it flared like a banner. His horse's ears twitched back, sensing the tension in its rider. Then it happened. The first shot came from the left, a muzzle flash, a deafening crack, and Ethan moved before the sound had even reached the children's ears. His Colt barked once, twice, the recoil snapping through his arm, and the man who'd fired crumpled into the dust, his rifle clattering beside him. The circle shattered, bullets ripped the air, whizzing past Ethan's head, kicking up spurts of sand at his feet. Horses screamed, rearing against the reins, their nostrils flaring at the scent of blood and powder. Ethan kicked his mount forward into the thick of them, firing as he went. He rode like a man possessed, low in the saddle, using the horse's flank for cover, his arms steady even as the world exploded around him. A man with a bandana over his face lunged forward. Ethan's bullet caught him in the chest, dropping him where he stood, Another swung a shotgun up from his hip. Ethan shot him before he could pull the trigger, the man's weapon flying from his hands as he stumbled backward. But there were too many. The sheer number of them began to press in, their gunfire, a constant roar, the air thick with smoke. Somewhere on the far side, Ethan saw a flash of movement, the unmistakable glint of sunlight on steel. And then the shotgun boomed. Pain exploded across his ribs, white-hot and blinding, knocking the air from his lungs. He tasted iron in his mouth, knew without looking that he was bleeding. But the grip on his cold didn't falter. Gritting his teeth, he returned fire, dropping two more men before the chamber clicked empty. The outlaws hesitated. They weren't used to prey fighting back like this, like a cornered wolf tearing at the jaws that closed around it. That heartbeat of hesitation was all Ethan needed. He wheeled his horse around, the animal's muscles bunching beneath him, and spurred hard toward the boulders. The twins' eyes went wide as he thundered past them, his arm sweeping down to grab them, one under each arm, and haul them up behind him. They clung to him instantly, small arms locking around his waist, their faces pressed into his back. The horse screamed at the sudden weight, but lunged forward as Ethan kicked again, charging toward the narrow gap between two riders. The men cursed, scrambling to block him, but his horse shouldered through, the stirrup of one outlaw's saddle tearing free as Ethan barreled past. Gunfire erupted behind them, bullets snapping past his ears, one grazing the brim of his hat, another slashing the air by his cheek. He didn't dare look back. He felt the horse's stride stretch, its hooves pounding the earth in a rhythm that rattled his teeth. The plateau fell away behind them, replaced by the open desert, a rolling sea of sand, rock, and sagebrush, all bathed in the molten light of the sinking sun. Ethan's breath came in ragged pulls, every one of them burning, the wound in his side sending waves of heat through his body. The twins didn't make a sound, but he could feel the tremor in their arms, the way their fingers dug into his coat. His blood, was soaking into the leather, making it tacky beneath their grip. The horse's flanks were slick with sweat, foam flecking its mouth, but it ran as if it knew what was at stake. Behind them, the shouts of the outlaws began to fade, swallowed by distance and the wind. But Ethan knew better than to believe they'd given up. Men like that didn't stop hunting, not until they'd buried the thing they were after. For hours, they rode beneath a sky that deepened from gold to purple to black. Stars began to prick through the darkness, and the desert came alive with the sounds of night. The whisper of wind through dry grass, the distant call of a coyote, the faint rustle of something small moving in the brush. When the canyon walls finally rose ahead of them, jagged silhouettes against the starlit sky, Ethan slowed the horse to a trot, then to a walk. The animal's sides heaved, each breath a shudder. Ethan slid from the saddle, his boots hitting the ground with a jolt that nearly sent him to his knees. He reached up, lifting the twins down gently, one at a time. They stood close to him, silent shadows in the moonlight, their faces turned up to his. He forced a smile he didn't feel and guided them toward the shelter of the canyon wall, where the rock would hide them from sight and block some of the night wind. When he pressed a hand to his side, it came away slick and dark. The wound was bad, not the kind a man could just walk off. But there was no time to think about that. Somewhere out there, the surviving outlaws were still on the hunt. Somewhere, the children's mother was moving through the desert, either to find them or to meet her own end. Ethan sank down against the rock, his Colt in his lap, his eyes scanning the dark mouth of the canyon. He could feel the twins leaning against him, their small bodies warm, their breathing steady but quick. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for certain. Whatever their mother had planned when she left, it was going to change everything. He didn't rush to finish his coffee tonight. Instead, he lingered, savoring the warmth in the cup and the unexpected comfort in her company. When he finally stood to leave, he paused at the door, turning back to look at her with a glance that spoke of something more than gratitude, perhaps a promise to return, or the beginning of a new chapter neither of them fully understood yet. As the door closed behind him and the bell chimed softly, Maya felt the quiet thrill of a story unfolding, one that began with black coffee, but might lead somewhere much deeper. His eyes met hers, and there was something unspoken between them, a fragile connection born out of shared loneliness and unvoiced hope. The rain kept falling outside, a steady rhythm that wrapped the world in a gentle embrace. While inside the little coffee shop, two people found a rare moment of understanding.